Hanuman Dhara, Panchamukha Hanuman. So we're going to continue with the description found in Valmiki Ramayana of what happened after the death of King Dasarath. The death of King Dasarath came 6 days after Ram departed. We'll hear at the end some chronology. 3 days it took for the messengers to go from Ayodhya to Kaikaya kingdom to request Bharata to return. It took 7 days. There's a reason we'll hear, for them to return to Ayodhya. The next morning after Bharata's return, the funeral ceremony was performed. 14 days by religious custom were to pass before any other practical activity took place. Bharata then ordered that a road be made following the path that they would travel. 1 month it took for that to be completed. Only a month in India? Build a road in a month? No, the good old days. So that means 2 months passed. We'll hear the chronology again. So the messengers have been dispatched by Vashishta and the others, but specifically Vashishta. They were given an instruction what to say, what not to say. Here's what you say, here's what you don't say. Here, what you say is, Vashishta has requested us to come. He wants me to convey to you that everything is just fine, and he needs you to return swiftly to attend to some important matters. And don't say anything about Ram's exile and Dasarath's death. Even if asked, don't say. So they left. That's where we discontinued. Now we're picking up from there. The evening before their arrival, another of a recurring bad dream of Bharata occurred. And he woke up startled early in the morning, having just gone through this bad dream, where he saw himself and his father and a chariot pulled by donkeys traveling in the sky, and some other details. And then he understood, because one of his many skills was understanding and reading dreams, he understood that this meant that someone was soon going to die. Maybe it was his father, maybe it was him, maybe it was Lakshman, maybe it was Bharat. Chitrakoot didn't know, but he was in anxiety. When the messengers arrived, they paid proper respects and received in respectful manner, and as soon as opportunity provided, they came to Bharata and delivered the message. We've come on behalf of the sage Vashishta. He wanted us to convey to you everything is just fine, and he's requesting you to come at once to Ayodhya to attend to some important matter. Naturally, Bharata wanted to know what that important matter was. And especially because of the dream he just had and the meaning of the dream, he specifically inquired about his father and other direct family members. Doesn't say what the messengers said, but they politely, discreetly didn't divulge that Dasarath is dead and Ram has gone to the forest. That they didn't disclose the reason gave Bharata more concern. He knew that something very calamitous had happened, and so he wanted to leave at once and take care of whatever because he's Bharata. His life is a life of responsibility. He went to Ashvapati. Ashvapati is his mother's father, so his maternal grandfather. Relayed the message that had come to him on behalf of the sage Vashishta. Ashvapati immediately gave his permission, and more than permission, he sent return gifts, because gifts had been given and gifts are being returned. Thousands of elephants and as many horses and large quantities of gold and fine cloth and some of Ashvapati's best soldiers to accompany Bharata to make his return. Bharata did his best because his mind was distracted. If you remember from our discussion the other day, vikshepa. When sorrow comes, when karuna rasa comes, it's a different karuna rasa than we normally hear, but it's the terminology that Jiva Goswami recites, shoka, or distress, anxiety. He tried his best to receive the gifts in a cordial manner, but he had one foot out the door already. He was eager to depart. And with that big entourage of many, many chariots, and elephants don't walk so fast. That was one of the reasons that it took 7 days instead of coming in 3 days. Another reason was he wanted to go with his chariot and Chitrakoot off the main trail, because there's kind of like a shortcut, but he couldn't do that because he had all this procession accompanying him. And the whole way, one can imagine, 7 days worth of, what was it? Maybe, then so many maybes. Maybe the country is under siege. There's a big war. Maybe Dasarath has died. Maybe Vashishta wanted Ram, Dasarath wants Ram to be anointed the successor king. But why wouldn't I have been given good news if it was good news? What was it? What was it? What was it? So we only had, whatever it was, however many hours of torture on the roads between Ayodhya and Chitrakoot. They had 7 days at the pace of elephants. And finally he reached Ayodhya, and he wasn't surprised to see a scene that looked filled with dismay. He saw signs, doesn't give the details, but he saw signs that indicated to him that the king has departed this world. So straight away he went to the king's chambers, eagerly hoping to find his father. His father wasn't there. Instead, the people that were there attending that place, they were looking down. They wouldn't look up and look at him. The ladies were all crying. And his mind then became filled with even further anxiety. It says his limbs felt like they had fallen off. His heart, his stomach and heart sank. He was in great turmoil. And he didn't even want to ask the people, why is it like this? He just went straight away to his Kaikeyi's chamber. Because often the king would be there with Kaikeyi. And when he reached Kaikeyi's chamber, she was very cheerful, super cheerful. Oh, my beloved son, you've been gone away for so long. Your presence has been missed. He touched her feet. She embraced him, my beloved son. It says she sat him on her lap like he's a little child or something. But that was the culture at the time. And asked him to describe his experience with her brother and his uncle and his grandfather or her father, and how is the kingdom and how is everybody and how are the folks doing, and that kind of natural, conventional conversation. So he answered those questions first and then said, where's my father? I looked for him in his chambers and he wasn't there. And I expected otherwise he would be here. I long to touch his feet. Please tell me. Why is everyone looking so grim and sad? His mother, Kaikeyi, said, just as all souls in this world must one time do, your beloved father, the protector and well-wisher of all living entities, the great hero, the man who lived by righteousness, he has passed on to the next world. Bharata was filled with grief to hear this. I mean, he had an intuitive sense that's what happened, but when you hear, it's another story. And he had such love for his father that he just collapsed. Great hero collapsed and fell to the floor. And his mother was seeing him writhing on the floor and said, "My dear son, you're very powerful and fixed in knowledge, and give up this grief. It's unbefitting a person who is such a great hero as you. And rise, take heart." Then Bharata said, "Of what disease did my father die? How fortunate were Ram and Lakshman to be here and perform the funeral rites for our father. Please send a messenger to let Ram know that I have come. Now that my father is gone, he is my father, because according to our culture, the eldest brother is to be respected like the father. I want to fall at Ram's feet and ask him, what were the parting words that my father spoke? Did he give some specific message to me?" Unabashed, completely transparent and honest with her words, Kaikeyi said his parting words were, "Oh Ram, oh Lakshman, oh Sita." And then just before he left, he kept repeating this over and over, and just before he left he said, "Only those men who will see Ram return with Sita and Lakshman will have their desires fulfilled and be happy." Now Bharata is even more disturbed. Ram is gone, along with Lakshman and Sita? Can you please explain? What does this mean? What did the king mean when he said about this? And Kaikeyi said, "Prince Ram, with your brother Lakshman and his beloved Sita, they left the city, clad in tree bark. They've gone to some distant forest to live for 14 years. And everybody knows of that time what that meant. What I can't even imagine that Ram did some sinful activity to be the cause of his going to the forest in exile for 14 years, accompanied with his delicate Sita and his loyal brother. Please explain." And innocently and proudly, in fact, Kaikeyi says he didn't do any sinful activity, and he didn't steal somebody's property, poor man or rich man. He didn't murder a brahmana, or he didn't do anything like that. That's not why he's gone. But when it was announced about the upcoming installation of Ram as Prince Regent, I asked your father to send Ram to the forest and have you become king instead. Bound by his deep character of righteousness, having made a promise that he would fulfill whatever I said, your father banished Ram to the forest. And Sita and Lakshman couldn't bear to be separated from Ram, so they went too. Missing his beloved son, your illustrious father couldn't maintain his life any further, and he expired, constantly calling Ram's name. My dear son, I did all this for you. But don't grieve. Be firm in your resolve. You perform the funeral for your father, and thereafter we shall have you coronated as the next king. Bharata was in disbelief. Have you gone mad? What came into your mind, oh cruel woman? Were you thinking that I actually envy Ram and that I desire to become the king? I wouldn't want sovereignty handed to me of the whole world in the absence of such a beloved associate and brother, Lord Ram. You're a disgrace. You're a destroyer of the family. Why? Why did you do this? And his mood was so intense and so strong, vehement. Kaikeyi was shocked. She was expecting, he would celebrate with her. So she started to defend herself and said, well, normally I wouldn't have said anything, but Manthara described very clearly how you are being mistreated, and it was a great danger for you if Ram became king, and so I asked for these boons. Basically instigated by Manthara. It wasn't like blaming Manthara, she thought Manthara was right. I simply acted with your interest in mind. Bharata exploded, and there's a whole series of things that he said. I am shamed by my own mother. The godly Kaushalya and Sumitra, accepting you as their co-wives, are now tormented in anxiety in separation from their sons. Ram served you even more excellently than I did, and you said that on many occasions. For what reason did you do like this? Kaushalya treated you like her own sister, and now you've sent her sinless son to the forest in exile, dressed in tree bark? Are you happy that your husband is now lying dead? Sita, Ram, and Lakshman banished, and your remaining family seized with unbearable pain? He keeps going, he's on a roll. Due to greed, you have clearly not understood my devotion to Ram. These lower qualities block our ability to understand things properly. It's clear you don't understand my intense devotion to Ram. Even the king depended upon Ram's assistance. How would I be able to become king in the absence of Ram, my powerful brother, whose association is my intelligence and my strength? I will never accept the kingdom in his absence. I shall bring him back from the forest, my sinless brother, and install him as the king, and I'll serve at his feet as his humble assistant and servitor. Then more. You are my enemy in the guise of a mother. You are a vile wretch who, out of the desire for the kingdom, has killed her own husband. Don't ever speak to me. The sin has been incurred not only by you, but by me. And I'm suffering it in the form of the loss of my father, the loss of my brother. And I'm also, for sure, going to be despised by the whole world. There's only one situation for you, oh, one destined for hell. You should either enter into fire, hang yourself with a rope, or yourself go to the Dandak forest, banished forever. This is her son. And he falls to the ground, rolling on the ground in great misery for a long time. Finally, Bharat regains his composure enough to know what his duty is next. He has to go to Kaushalya. So he and Chitrakoot by his side, because Chitrakoot is with him through this whole, because they're inseparable. They're approaching Kaushalya's apartment. She hears their voice. Just hearing their voices, she falls to the ground, unconscious. She regains consciousness, picks herself up, and says some very harsh words. So, you come to enjoy your kingdom? And says many, filled with biting sarcasm, words to Bharat. Kaikeyi's never treated him this way. So there's pages of Bharat's response where he indicates to her, why do you rebuke me like this? Surely you know my love for Ram. How could you even imagine that I was guilty of this horrible deed? I only came to know about it this morning when I returned from Kekaya. Then a whole launch of anyone, that person who agrees with Ram's exile should be da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So he pages of speaking badly about anyone who has any favoritism towards Kaikeyi's plan. And Kaushalya, she understands this is Bharat's nature. It's not just words, it's his nature. And she now, as she did with her husband, same. She was disclosing her heart, this sorrow that she was feeling, and now she just embraces Bharata. I know your affection for Ram. I know that you would not have anything to do with any of this, but I was speaking from my deep grief. She places him on her lap. She's crying. He's crying. Over the terrible thing that has just happened. It's still the morning. Vashishta allows Bharata to grieve for some time. The next morning he approaches Bharata and says, "It is long overdue. Your father's funeral should be performed. Please lead according to our custom. The son, family member, should perform. But Ram is the one, he's the eldest son, he should perform. He's gone to the forest. You should perform. As your guru, I'm instructing you, you must do this." So Bharata agrees. All the procedures are followed. They go to the river Sarayu. The cremation is performed. Kaushalya and Sumitra want to enter into the fire and follow their husband wherever he has gone, but they are more attached to Ram and to Lakshman, so they don't do that. The brothers take the ashes from the cremation ground and in a ceremonious way, with mantras recited by the priest, they disperse the ashes in the river Sarayu. They come back to the palace, and now Chitrakoot speaks. How strange that Ram, the shelter of all beings in distress, has been banished to the forest by a woman. What a pity that even Lakshmana, who is so powerful and strong, didn't stop this from happening. Why, our father should have been stopped before it got to any stage of Ram being gone. How strange. And as they were speaking, totally in another world was Mantra, passing by, decorated in royal garments, wearing elaborate ornaments and necklaces, and Ramayana says looking like a circus monkey. When she saw the two princes standing there, she caught her breath and stepped back and tried to hide herself. But the doorkeeper saw her and grabbed her by the arm and brought her before the two princes. This is the one that brought about this disaster. Do as you see fit. Chitrakoot grabs her, and he's going to finish her. Kaikeyi comes to the aid of Manthara. Chitrakoot blasts Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi becomes so afraid because of the anger and the rage of Chitrakoot, she runs to Bharata. Bharata says to Chitrakoot, release her. According to scripture, she deserves death penalty. I feel I would have immediately killed my own mother, except that Ram wouldn't have been pleased with that. That's his standard of doing things. And similarly, if he heard that Mantra was killed, then he wouldn't even want to speak to you or me. So release her. Immediately, Chitrakoot released her. Kaikeyi trying to comfort Mantra to calm her down, because Mantra doesn't like being talked to like that. She's in another space altogether. Chitrakoot and Bharata left. Kaikeyi is standing there speechless. She's shocked to see how her son and her beloved son's assistant, devoted brother Chitrakoot, are responding to her beautiful plan. Fourteen days pass. There's an appeal by Vasishtha that Bharata become the king, because a kingdom without a king is in a very precarious situation. Bharata goes to where the paraphernalia that had been assembled some time ago, nearly a month ago, circumambulates the paraphernalia and makes this declaration. In our line, the king is always the eldest brother. Ram should become king. I am going to the forest and personally bring Ram back. And we should all be prepared. Let a large and powerful army be made ready. We'll take all of these items to the forest and perform the coronation there. Seeing all these people making this strong appeal, surely Ram will come. He makes an instruction for a road to be prepared, as mentioned, and in a month's time, it's a fantastic arrangement, not just, a road, but gardens by the side of the road and tens of thousands of people traveling, so shopkeepers set up their shops and parks and, the whole thing. When the road was almost completed, Vashishta came one more time to Bharata and appealed, "You should become the king." Bharata's firm. How is this possible when both the kingdom and I belong to Ram? I shall only follow Ram. He's the king, the best of all men, and the one that deserves sovereignty over the three worlds. If I fail to bring Ram back, I'll stay in the forest with him, along with Lakshman. So the journey begins. 9,000 elephants, 60,000 chariots, 100,000 infantry, all the royal counselors and priests, as well as the Dasarath's wives. The procession from Ayodhya, in addition, was thousands of citizens from all the different sectors of society. It's a festival, so merchants set up and people doing their thing. But their mood was all one. Although their situations are all different, their mood is one. Let us bring Ram back to Ayodhya. So they set off. And that's where we're going to end this evening. So tomorrow we'll hear about the journey and so many things. Being the burden of infamy, because he's already experienced it with Kaushalya, but he's going to experience it with others as he goes on. Guha and Bharadraj and Lakshman in particular. But he's fixed. One mission, bring Ram back. Ram is the king. So we have two more of these sessions. Tomorrow morning we'll hear some of the additional places that we'll be visiting tomorrow. And by the evening we'll have completed Ayodhya Kanda of Ramayana. At least that's the plan. Let's see what Krishna's plan is. Shri Ramachandra ki Gaur Premanandi.